somebody needs what you've already got. And
Yes.
oftentimes we're trying to like get to wherever there is for us, but we neglect to see that what we embody in this moment is still useful for someone around us.
Welcome to Gifted and Guided, a community and podcast for entrepreneurs by an entrepreneur. We prioritize ourselves, and we also face the realities of the often overlooked and not so glamorous journey of entrepreneurship. But the best part, we're doing it together. Let's make it official. Subscribe, like, do all the things that they say to do. And now that you're officially a part of the Gifted and Guided community, you can call me Nye. But if you haven't subscribed, my name is Nialah. I'm your host and guide, and this is Gifted and Guided. I'm really excited to introduce our guide today. She goes by the name of KJ Rose. She's a dynamic force in the entertainment industry, known for her experience and expertise in artist development and performance. As the founder of The Rose Effect, she has guided numerous artists to achieve their potential. With a background on stage and screen, KJ has worked with industry giants like Justin Timberlake, Britney Spears, Lil Nas X, and her passion for helping others shines through. Every time I speak to her, it is just like speaking to a ray of light. She is someone that you can go to when you're just uncertain and you just need to get that boost of confidence. And that is exactly why I knew she was the perfect person to speak to about today's topic. KJ, welcome.
Thank you.
Yay! Inserts audience applause.
Yes, my friend.
So excited to have you.
I'm
I
excited
really
to be here.
appreciate you doing this. So to kick off our conversation, I have a riddle for you to try to figure out. Now, I made this one especially for you.
Me? Riddles, huh?
So
Man,
we'll see
riddle
how
me
this goes.
Okay.
All
Let's
right.
see.
I whisper to artists, secrets of the stage, guide stars your door, turning a blank page. From skits to award show lights, I've seen it all, directed campaigns and fights.
The talent whisperer.
It's you.
I am the talent whisperer.
It's you. It's you. I was like, okay, I need to use her bio and ask AI to make a riddle just for her.
That's a great way to use AI. Yes, I was like, the talent whisperer. Yes,
It is
received.
you. Yes. Yes. I did some research and surprised but not surprised by this stat. 77% of the population has some level of fear of public speaking, according
Yeah.
to crossover therapy. Now, I'm not necessarily surprised by that. It is reassuring, but based on your work, can you confirm, like, yeah, this is absolutely true?
Yeah. I think the key, because I found that it was, there's the fear, but then, it's a little bit of just stage fright. And then sometimes I think in my case, there was no stage fright when I was with groups or I was with the collective or an
Yes.
ensemble. But the idea of kind of being on stage all alone and everything falling on me did take putting in some tools, which is why I enjoy doing what I do, because now everything that I've learned, I can pour into other people, so that they don't have to kind of reinvent the wheel or the system for kind of circumventing the trepidation that comes along with it. And so most times it is not wanting to be completely vulnerable, and the threat of exposure on stage,
Ooh,
because you could
yeah.
project one way, but the minute you're out there by yourself on, on demand, you're expected to perform, it may actually go against how you project in crowds. And so just then that idea of, being judged, of feeling as if there is a scarcity of some sort, that always is kind of like what leads in how people feel about public speaking and performing and anything that requires you to assert yourself as a singular presence.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, seriously. I mean, you hit on so many points. And I think whether it's a music video, right?
Yeah.
You're performing in front of all these people
Yeah.
to performing on stage. As someone that's not necessarily a singer or plans on ever making a music video,
Okay.
I've always wondered, and even when I worked at Hot 97 and we were preparing for a summer jam, we were on the stage and I was just like, how do people get on this stage in front of all of these people in this stadium? And it's at MetLife.
Yeah.
MetLife is huge.
Yes.
And I guess I know that's where you come in, where you're helping them engage with the crowd, but also empowering them to own the stage.
Yes. It's really the conversation that you have with yourself before
Mm-hmm.
having the conversation with the audience. And so my work is really about digging into and re-championing your story so that we can look at the areas that are unresolved, look at what you deem to be a victory and deem to be a defeat. How have you resolved that or reconciled that? Because those are all ways that you can take your power back from the fear of walking out and immediately being judged, or just opening yourself up to people having opinions about what you do. It's first pre-approve yourself. What is your opinion about yourself? How much have you spent cementing and embodying and abiding in your own thoughts of how you feel about yourself? And then how much repetition have you poured into the arsenal so that when you go out on that stage, you are not pulling from an empty tank. You are pulling from a very deep well that says, I know what this feels like. I've been here before. I've won already. So I know that I can win again. A victory has already been, put in the arsenal. And so that's
Mm-hmm.
one way. The second way that I would say is to identify and kind of resurrect your force. I think we're all born with some level of, what's the word I'm looking for? Like invincibility, like the thing that is about us, or the thing that is us that we were born with that really cannot be negotiated. But oftentimes we outsource it. You know what I mean? We outsource what
Yeah.
is us. We
That's so
are, the
true.
things that cannot be hijacked about you. And those are
Mm.
things oftentimes intangible, and then they could be tangible. For me, I
Yeah.
realized that mine was energy. And as often as I was told, and just how that projected for others, how it felt for them to experience that level of energy. Sometimes it was like, why it doesn't take all of that? Why are you doing all of that? That's what I would get. And it would almost
Mm-hmm.
make me, kind of simmer down a bit, like, oh, okay, that's not
Mm.
proper here. And then I realized, oh, okay, this is more about you than it is about me. And at
Right.
the end of the day, God was using my energy, as a way to, really change the hearts of people all over the world. And the thing that I was going to now just kind of like back up from was the thing that led me on this journey as being a performance director, and then writing a book, and now being a motivational leadership speaker. And so, yeah, I think that, it's the re-championing of your story. It is the reconnection or the resurrection of your force. Again, it's for me, empathy as well. And I think that's what gives me what I need to fully be able to show up and allow artists to harness kind of what I completely abide in until they're able to completely abide in their own force, right? And so,
Mm-hmm.
where people would say you're so sensitive, I changed that narrative not quickly. It took some time, but into, oh my God, like another part of your force is empathy. That is why you are able to build a connection with the artists and the execs and the creatives that you work with. And lastly, it's like it's seizing your power. So what's the conversation that you're having with yourself when you're embarking upon new space? You're embarking on just kind of expanded territory. And oftentimes when I'm working with people, I see that they're having conversations that no longer serve them, right? Could be that your edge has extended, but you have not tested it, right? And so
Right.
now the data that you're using to hopefully embolden yourself in the moment is not working. And while it is good data, if you silo it, it ain't data for you and where you are and what you've experienced and how you've grown. So I'm always about, let's make an assessment. Let's keep assessing where we are, because your external expression is merely just a reflection of what you think about yourself, what you think your internal narrative is. That's what we're watching from a physical sense. We're watching your internal narrative at work. So whether it's looking like you are in the process of working, or whether it's looking like you've reconciled kind of parts of you, so that you take your power back, so that the audience doesn't have the power to make you frightened because you haven't dealt with some of the things in your own story. This is long before you even get to the performative piece of it. So,
Right. Wow, the process. And I mean, all powerful things. My mind was like spiraling with so many different questions to ask, and I hope that I can get to at least one of them because but when thinking about changing the narrative and also how others can dim your light, to your point, making that assessment
yeah.
of the beliefs that you have and where they come from, because it's not always necessarily because you just don't think that you're good enough. Maybe someone said something to you prior to that made you believe that, and then you ran with that narrative. So how do you encourage people to, beyond like the assessment, how do they build that confidence within? Like, what are small things that they can do to get to that point of being able to go on stage and owning their power?
Yeah, it is. I think, it's showing up, no matter what you are embarking on, whether it's a room, whether it's a stage, the traditional stage as well as the executive stage. It is writing down the things that truly make you feel alive. The non-negotiables, the things about you that you may have kind of abandoned, but now it is clearly what will help you navigate your journey. So it's figuring out how you show up. It is what's your posture when you show up? What's your eye contact when you show up? What's your energy? Are you asking permission to be in the room? So, it's part of the work that you do, and how the work you do before you even get to the thing, the
Right.
show, the
event,
right,
social media,
whatever it
anything.
is. It is that work. It is the conversations that you have with yourself. And so I would say, write down those things about you that are non-negotiables. Write down those things that make you truly like invincible, emotionally invincible, mentally invincible. And then I would say, also figure out what part of your story you still feel indicted by, right? What part of your story is tough because you've not sat down with it. And then from that, look at the pieces of the story that have actually added value to who you have become. Right. So this is, the work that we do with any artist is long before we get to the song and the stage, so
Right, it's a process.
and finally, I would say just assessing your edge, like what is the thing that gives you the most trepidation? And for me, it was creating my own imprint and conference called Confidence Con. And so I
Which
think
I love. When I saw, I was like, oh my gosh, yes, I love that you're doing this. And I can't wait for you to take it to more cities. Confidence Con coming to Miami,
absolutely
New York,
it's in
Atlanta,
progress. Yes,
putting it
definitely.
out there. Yes.
And so, it's the honest conversations, with yourself. It is going to a rehearsal studio, getting in front of it, having the conversations, looking at yourself, whether it's you getting on stage, spend time with you, looking at that reflection and truly understanding like what it is, what it feels like, so that when you do get in front of people, you're not spending the first 5 minutes wondering what they're thinking, because you already know what it looks like, what it feels like, what you embody, what your intention is. And so then by the time we get to the expression, it's very honest, whether that expression is conversation, whether that expression is on a stage with a live performance, whether that expression is dancing, no matter where you are, no matter what job or discipline you have, the goal is to always have an honest, sincere external expression. what that is for you. I think a lot of anxiety comes from building up to be something that we project, which is very temporary, right? Because that takes a lot of
Yes,
work than if you just do all the
it
work so
does.
that you can show up exactly who you are, and the
Wow,
places
yeah.
and the things that you don't want to share yet, at least you're aware of those things and you find power in other parts about you until the rest of you catches up to those things that you may not be ready to reveal or you've not yet healed from.
All gems, of course. To your point, knowing who you are before you get on stage, owning that, not necessarily worrying about how people are perceiving you within the first few minutes. And that could be even with like speaking engagements going on social media. I can't tell you how many entrepreneurs I've worked with that prefer to be behind the camera instead of in front of it. But when it comes to running a small business, people tend to buy from you because of who you are, and they don't know where to start as far as storytelling and
Yeah.
or just honestly having, I don't want to say stage fright, but not wanting to create the content because of all the mean people that are out there. The trolls, right? They're afraid of the negative feedback, the criticism. And when it comes to being on stage, let's say you're telling a joke, you're a comedian telling a joke, or you're just presenting, and you don't necessarily get the laughter that you're looking for. Like, how do you bounce back from a quote unquote, I don't want to call it a failure, but if something doesn't necessarily go as planned, how do you bounce back from those moments on stage while you're performing?
You got to stay shifting gears, and that's why
Mm,
I am all about like putting as much data as you can in that tank because you'll pull from, information that works for, a particular audience that's not receiving you. You'll pull from an audience, from data that is, with an audience that is receiving you. And because oftentimes we can have a gift or we can have information that's super linear, right? It only works for a specific amount of people, for a specific circumstance, for a specific day, but we need to diversify, what we're putting into that arsenal and that well. And so I think
mm,
for me, like I spoke somewhere and, you know, the programming of it, just put me towards the end of the actual event. And I know people were exhausted. And so I think
yeah,
the
that's
first
tough.
thing
Yeah,
I have to say is it's never personal. You know,
right.
this audience doesn't know me well enough for it to be
Mm-hmm.
personal. So don't take
Right.
things personally. And so as this was happening though, there have been times that I completely just went on with what I was doing because maybe the feeling of that, was not great. It didn't settle well. But this particular case, I was like, I think I was just so in tune. And I
Mm-hmm.
was like, I have been waiting all day that I was like, oh, you're going to get some of this, right? So I saw this table. And so imagine tables and it's sparse and so you're already coming into a room that, it's not a full room. But I also know that sometimes God is only sending one. He's sending you to places for you
Right.
to maybe hit one. So I try not to get too
Mm,
caught up in
that's
that.
true.
And so, but this like whole table, I think of 4 people was getting up, as I was like coming on. I said, yo, let me tell you something. If you really believe that your life was going to change today, you would sit down. I was like, I just got to do it. And they sat down. And they sat down. Right. And then they became participants in what I was
Wow.
doing. And I engaged the audience. And so I think it is.
You have to be, it sounds like you're quick on your feet. And that's a gift.
I think my friends make me. We like, ah. And I think that is a gift, and I think it's been a
Yeah.
skill honed. But then also, I think
Mm,
then 2 more will leave it. I was like, so y'all out, huh? But here's the thing: like the reason I go to shows all the time, no matter what types of shows,
mm-hmm.
is because there is always something to pull from and inspiration to pull from from another creative, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I went to Craig Robinson's show. That was like, it was just so, and then there was a time where people were leaving because he went on at like midnight. And I watched how he handled that, and he just started it became part of the show. So I think
Right.
it's, people are always like, when do you complete your speech for a particular keynote? And I really don't complete it until I get on the stage, because I try to leave room for new inspiration, for God to hit me with something new, something that in the moment is very key to share, so I'm not so there was a time, just even as a performer, I'm like, you're gonna sing these 3 songs, you're not gonna talk in between, you're gonna go on and then you're gonna get off, right? But there was no way for God to work kind of intermittently. And what really helped me with, I think, the trepidation was the amount of preparation that I did long before I got to the stage, right? So I knew the plan front to back, so much so that I could actually depart from it,
Wow.
allow room
Yeah.
for inspiration, and then come back to it. You know what I mean? Like, I was not
Mm-hmm.
so like beholden to it, because now it was in me. Now it was second nature.
Right.
Now it was habit. And that allowed me freedom to now say, I know y'all not trying to leave. I just got
Yep.
here. What we
Yep.
doing? And not
Yeah.
feel, and it's funny because other people are like, yeah, just keep going. And normally, yes, I was gonna keep going, but that satisfied kind of another part of my art for me in real time, right? Because I think that if you're holding on, whether it's pre-show, during show, or post, if you're holding on to anything that's unsettling, to anything that makes you feel just kind of like, what's the word, like angst about, then it's really tough for you to be present in that
Right.
moment,
That's true.
right? So if I didn't get that up off of me, the next 40 minutes. So then my whole presentation, right before I went on, she's like, can you, modify it from 45 minutes to 20 minutes, right? So that whole 20 minutes, so I had to work fast in that. That whole 20 minutes would have been spent lamenting on what happened at the top of the hour. And then
Right.
the idea of losing twice. I hate losing twice. So in this scenario, I was seemingly losing time to speak,
Mm-hmm.
and then I was losing people.
Right.
So we'll just put time and people together. But
Right.
the second loss, proverbial loss, would have been losing the moment to add value, to bring energy to who was in the room, because you didn't recover quick from the moment that disappointed you. You will miss the moment that awaits you with abundance and opportunity and inspiration. And so I just hate that idea. And so I have now kind of like made that, part of my internal kind of system. Like, man, this don't feel
Yeah.
good, but okay, you got to be over it, because
You
there
have
could
to
be,
get over it.
whether it is, and it's not for all things, right? It's for things that are really ego connected, and, and that type of disappointment where you cannot recover quick. There are some things you can't recover quickly from. But
Yeah.
in this moment, I was like, okay, if you spend more time here, then the people that are attached to you as part of their assignment will also miss out. So it's bigger than you. You were sitting
It
here
is
for a
bigger than
reason,
you.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I like how you pointed that out, of how you instead focus on those that are attached to that moment,
Hmm.
that assignment, that you're of you being on that stage in that room,
Yeah.
or even if it's posting a video, focusing on those that need to see it versus those that are anti it, or it's maybe not for them. I think a lot of people get caught up in that, especially in this social media world
Yeah.
where people are quick to share their opinions, and sometimes it could be hurtful it depends on what they want to say, because people are really great at saying really rude things online, but in person they won't say a word. It's
Right.
very interesting
So,
to see.
yes.
And I think someone that we can all attest to as far as stepping into that is Beyonce, especially with her tour, how she, specifically the Renaissance tour, people would say different things online and she would incorporate it into the next show. It was
She was
it was
quick.
kind of like
She was
a,
quick with it.
yes, quick. And so you mentioned freedom. And it sounds like when you own your gift and you own all that you are and are able to activate, you can freely create and just be who you are on stage.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's easier said than done. I'm curious to know, like, how long does it take with your clients? Because you work with different levels, right? You work with people who are established and have been in the game for a while, and people who are new artists. And I know sometimes you have a quick turnaround. They might have a performance the next day. Like,
Yeah.
how do you get them to activate it so quickly?
Right. So let me just, I want to give a shout out to a few of the clients that we didn't talk about, just so you can see the range. Shout out to the women that have entrusted me with their gift, from Erica Campbell to Andra Day to Sweetie to Queen Naija to some more come to me. And then we'll get to the guys, to LL, to Nas, and Brittany Spencer. They've truly entrusted me, to Honey Baby.
Mm-hmm.
Now this is going to be crazy, but BK the ruler. Okay, so we're going to stop right there. So what I would take to BK, I can't take that same information to Sweetie.
Right.
What I would take to Erica, I'm not taking that same information to Brittany Spencer. And so oftentimes I can come in with a lesson plan, but based
Mm-hmm.
upon the experiences that they've just had before walking in, based upon their week, based upon where they are in that moment, I may have to abandon that lesson plan. So is no one standard amount of activation time, because everybody is coming in with different information. Everyone is looking to activate and project in their own ways. And so it is the research that I do before I get to them, to know, how they show up, to know what they care about. And that's key. And so when I get into an artist and I'm in with an artist, I'm always like, why do you care? Why should we care? Where are we going? What is the song about? What are you talking about? It's a story and a conversation before it's a song. The freaking melodies are merely just a bonus, right? The sound is the bonus. Are you able to penetrate the lens? If there was no sound, are you leaving ad libs behind? Are you leaving lyrics behind? Are you making your pauses count? And so those are all the things that are very specific to everyone. Right. So there's a customized kind of lesson plan, so to speak, for every artist. And so the activate, and oftentimes I can get artists who are already soaring that are just looking for maintenance, right? They're embarking upon a new scenario, a new situation, an opportunity that will elevate them. So they may already have the basics in turn. There's no real trepidation there. However, there is some embarking on new territory there. And so it is me constantly making sure that I release my own kind of feeling of what it should be and truly acquiesce to what they are and what they want from their performance. And my job is to make sure that it is as optimal as possible. That when you get on there, your way of owning is not like anybody else's way of owning.
Yeah, it is customized.
Mm-hmm.
And to your point, it's understanding what they want, and so that you can activate it. But let's say someone doesn't know what they want. They're just like, I just know I got to show up.
Yeah, we got work to do, right? When you're on stage, you have asked us as an audience to come and experience you. I don't want to do no work, right? I don't want to watch you in process. So your responsibility if they've come out. Now, it's one thing if you just do it in a booth and we're going to listen at home.
Right.
That's one thing.
That's
But
different.
if you
Yeah.
invite me out to experience these songs in a different way, then your job as the artist is to engage me. It is first it's to be sure and certain in your display, in your engagement, so that you're not waiting on me to take part in that. You've already sold us that this is you. Right. And then it's like when I see that, I'm like, oh, well, let me get in closer. Like, again, I don't want to
Right.
do no work. I don't want to have to figure out who you're talking to, what you're doing, how you feel. Like, and I always ask my artists, where are you when you're having this conversation, AKA song? What are you thinking about? Who are you with? Let's give the thing a name. What do you feel? What's the emotion you want to put on it? Right. Because if you are projecting in hopes that and the only way that you can feel full in your projection is what you get back from the audience, then it's a dangerous um plan. You know what I mean? That's a dangerous formula as opposed to putting on your full armor. You know what it is, you know what it feels like, you know what you came to do, you know the assignment, you know the intention, you know what every song makes you feel. You got a pulse for everything, you know the ad libs, you know the why. And if you take that and just throw it out there, then you already have ambassadors. You know what I mean? They're there for you. If you shoot your energy to the back of the worst seat ever, row ZZ, and you make them feel included, everybody in the building should feel included. They should be like, oh, she was talking to me. No, she was talking to she was talking to me. He was talking to me, and you are the only messenger as the artist, as the speaker that we have. So you got to move like it,
Right.
right? You are the town
Yes.
crier in this scenario,
The
right? So I'm
town
always looking for
crier.
ways
Yeah.
to kind of communicate what I do. And I'm like, yeah, I'm the solid rocket booster. Yeah, I'm the, I said coxswain, which is like, a role on the boat. I'm on the rowing team. And so I found out also that I was the town crier. I went to Ghana and I realized that this woman, this presence was responsible for galvanizing the people and disseminating information. Every time you hit that stage, you are the town crier. You are galvanizing the energy of the room and you are disseminating information. Oh, don't let me I just got excited.
Yeah, keep going. I want it. Keep going.
But no, that's the gist. Yes, that is the gist.
Yeah, and I love that you it sounds like you're analytical in some ways as far as like when you're watching something, you're not just watching it to enjoy it. It sounds like you're
Yes,
always learning.
I
And I wonder
am.
if that's
I'm
just like
trying.
has that always been a thing, or do you think that activated once you stepped into this space?
No, I mean, it's so crazy. So I just celebrated my Deltaversary yesterday. Shout out to my sorors,
Happy
FAMU, Beta Alpha
Deltaversary.
chapter, November 21st. And so I just looked at our step show. We just gonna say, we don't know what year that was, but I was like, oh my God. I'm watching all of us. I'm watching the precision. So oftentimes when people are like, well, where does this come from? Like, I see it. I watched it. We embodied it. And it was somebody just DM'd me. My girl Erica was like, you were born for the stage. And it excited me. Like it re-inspired me to know that this journey I'm on is not by happenstance. This was divine. I was born for this. And I am born to help other people access, excavate, their assets. And because I know what it feels to be given the platform to access and activate my own, and
Yes.
so we were
Yep.
we were a force. We were good. I only speak about that just to share that when we talk about like owning the stage and being born with the gift, it just shows up in variations. But at the core of it, for me, it's always been presence and showmanship and precision and enthusiasm and confidence and joy and energy and empathy and love. That's all.
I mean, that's amazing to hear that you realize that this has always been a part of you
Yeah.
and it's showed up in different ways. When did you decide to activate? Because there's definitely a point where you don't know necessarily what your gifts are. You just know, like, oh, I'm just good at
Yeah.
this, or it comes natural, not recognizing like, no, it's an actual gift. So when did you recognize, like, oh, this is something, let me take this further and let me actually pivot into making it my own business?
I would say, I loved music. Obviously, most people do.
Mm-hmm.
From Chicago, family played a lot of like Anita Baker and Stephanie Mills and Luther. And I always thought that that love was enough. I love music. Maybe I'll work in music. And so it wasn't until I ended up in the Soul Children of Chicago choir, or I ended up in the Trinity United Church of Christ choir, or even singing with a duet in school. Like, again, these are groups, these are ensembles, these are not me by myself. And so that mere kind of that frightening feeling said to me, you're not supposed to make this a career. Like, you're just supposed to sing because, that's what you enjoy doing in choirs. And then fast forward to going to FAMU and, singing in programs that the Deltas would put on. It was like, okay, you just happen to be one of the singers in the sorority. And then with my friends, you just happen to be one of the good singers within your friend group, right? But this still does not constitute to an entire career.
Right.
And so I think, I would have to say in the beginning, it would be like all those choirs that really emboldened me and gave me the confidence. And then, shout out to Delta and my girls for giving me more confidence. And so, them just saying or helping me to assert myself in a way. And then meeting a friend now, his name is John Platt. And so my girl Shelly, my soror, was like, my boy is in music. And at this time he was at EMI. And it's funny because I had got an internship one year to go work at Pfizer in New York. So Chicago, Tallahassee, now I'm going to go work at Pfizer. And it was my way of sneaking into New York without making a full commitment to it. And then when I met
That's
John,
common.
Huh?
That's common. We always find that thing
like,
where we don't
go
necessarily
see what's happening.
Yeah.
Yes. And then when I got there, John put me with my first management team, which was Dave Nelson, rest his soul, and Erskine Isaac. And so I now had these two kind of like forces that were putting me in the studio, and they saw something in me. And again, that was a time I harnessed their belief until my own belief came into play, which is what I do for artists now. And so, before I knew it, I was singing background for Hev and Big and Common and Deb Prez and AZ and then on tour with Britney Spears. These are still all background gigs, right? With Britney Spears and Justin Timberlake and Janet Jackson, promo tour. In spot days with Ashanti and Monica and shows. And so I was like, okay, this is good. But then I feel like the way God deals with me is that he kicks me out. It's so flagrant sometimes. He'd be like, you're done here. And most times it's only flagrant because I ain't listened. Right? So he'll be like, this person is not going on tour anymore. So what you gonna do? Right?
Ooh.
Or I need you to move to a different home because the pandemic's on the way and you can't see it, but I can see it. And this space ain't going to be good for you mentally. While you still trying to figure out if you can afford another place, we're going to just go ahead and have somebody rob this place real quick so you won't come back. That's how you been dealing with me. And so it's like, I get it. Like he talks to me, and then if I don't immediately listen, he's like, I care too much about you to let you stay right here. And he was right. I mean, look at me. God was right. I would not have been able to endure those 2 years in the space that I was in. And it blessed me when it did, but I had outgrown it. And if I was going, he knew what was ahead. He knew that I was about to put my book out April 20th of 2020. And the amount of Zooms and work and recovery and healing that was going to need to take place, I needed more space to be free. I don't even know what your
Wow,
question
yes.
was, but that's what I did. But that's what I
I'm
landed.
like, okay, because I'm
Yes,
over
what made
here
me go
thinking
into
of
the business?
more
I got it. I
questions.
got it. I got it. So in the that it
Okay.
was what took you to the business. It was I started while I was at J Records, working for Clive Davis. I had been asked if I would help some of the artists with stage presence, and in that moment, I thought the call would be about me having a record deal, and so I was like, "Huh. So how do you feel about this?" Because you could miss out on an opportunity because your vision is very
Yep.
short-sighted, right? And so I was just like,
Yep.
it doesn't have to be this or like this could be in addition to me still on this pursuit. And then sometimes God is like, I'm only going to take you to this point because I need you to have all this information for where I am sending you next. And I would not
Yes.
have been able to fully understand, the path that LL was on or the path that Nas was on or the path that 24K Golden was on had I not had that time as an artist. So it was necessary.
Experiences.
It was part of the journey, but not the entire journey. And so once
Yes.
I had gotten, that little push, I started my business called The Rose Effect. And it was, I was doing everything in tandem. And I was like, because while touring is good, your life is predicated on when they tour. And I was like, man, how can I have more control of my own life? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
That is
Mm-hmm.
not so contingent on whether someone else gets approved to work or not. So that's how it
Wow.
started. I think, yeah, and period.
I mean, like, there's so much to say about that. You said God took you from the background to
The
the front of the
foreground.
stage. God was like, all right, you outgrew this, so I'm gonna make you uncomfortable and make you step into something else so that you can activate to get to that next step. Wow, my light just turned off. Okay, let me just move this over. See, I'm
See?
taking notes. I'm
Come on with
activating.
the
I'm gonna
pivot.
keep
Because
going.
even that, I mean, I like that too.
But yeah, so you touched on so many amazing points, and this has been such a fruitful conversation. I appreciate you so much. And your book. Okay, so tell us about your book, The
Okay,
Rose
this book is
Effect.
called The Rose Effect 8 Steps to Delivering the Performance of Your Life. The
Mm,
performance that you will find yourself on a traditional stage, the medical stage, the executive stage, outside. The performance of being outside is what
being
this book is about.
outside.
And it is just taking you through a lot of my lessons and storytelling. And so you could see like where I landed, whether it is a chapter called From Shame to Significance, where I wrote
Ooh.
a song that I had dismissed. It was called A Better Way. And then when asked if I had any body of work that I could share for a project, I said no, because we've dismissed things a lot of times based on time, right? We have outgrown it. We have outlived it. It no longer has currency. It no longer matters or has credence. And God was like, man, if you just complete the work, then it will, when it's time, it will be activated. And so 9 years later, the song that I tried to abandon ended up in Sugar.
Wow.
And so, yeah, it's stories
Wow,
like
that's
that. Yeah, yeah.
amazing.
So
I
I'm like,
love
you don't have to reinvent
full
the wheel.
circle moments are the best.
Yes.
I'll have to implement that into season 2 because I love a good full circle
Yeah.
moment. It speaks about the journey and like you don't know
Yeah.
in the moment you don't know where it's gonna go. But to your point, if you just keep doing the work and showing up, having faith
Yep.
that it will work out,
Yeah.
then you'll be able to activate. Amazing. So how can we access your book?
Yes. The book is on Amazon, Barnes and Noble. We also have the audio book, which is on Amazon as well, Audible
Are you
as well.
narrating it?
Yeah.
I can't wait. I have Audible, so I will absolutely be downloading
Yes.
today.
And then we have to go with the book Power Chants that are on Pandora, as well as Apple Music, Amazon, Spotify. And these chants are bite-sizable motivations that will quickly jolt you into remembering who you are and what you
Mm,
deliver every day.
Okay, sounds like it's something to add to the morning routine.
Add to the morning routine.
Well, before you go, we
Yeah.
have another segment, one
Yes.
last segment. It's called The Gift That Keeps on Giving. So we're going to take a quick break and then
Right.
get into it. This segment's my favorite. My love language is gift giving. So it only made sense that I incorporated it. The gift that keeps on giving. Although you have given us so much today.
Yeah.
What's something that you can give us to take away as far as a journal prompt, a question for reflection, maybe it's a quote, whatever it is, something that you can give us that we can use for reflection so that we can activate and own our truth?
Hey, let's see. I would say it's the title of one of my power chants, and it's called "Somebody Needs What You've Already Got." And oftentimes we're trying to like get to wherever there is for us, but we neglect to see that what we embody in this moment is still useful for someone around us. Yeah.
Yes.
Somebody needs what you already got. That's how it goes. Don't be afraid. So yeah, you're mighty, you're brilliant.
You can't sing and then stop. You got to keep going.
Okay, let me see. Somebody needs what you already got. So don't be afraid, just stay on your path. You're mighty, you're brilliant, you can make it fly. I'm just stating fact.
Oh, facts. Yes. Yes. Oh, I love that. And you said that's one of the
power chants. Yep. It's called Adjust Your Crown, Activate Your Force. And you can find it on any medium.
See, multifaceted, and I love seeing that it stems from the beginning of your journey.
Yeah.
All pouring into this. You're not only supporting other artists, you're also still walking in your talent as far as being a singer, writer, and performer yourself. So that's amazing to see. I'm so happy for you.
I'm surprised it came out. This is kind of early. I'm like, oh. And so I don't sing as much because, it doesn't really go with my style of coaching because I like to yell, and the yelling is just my energy. And so unless I am like straight going to vocal class every day, man, this was a blessing that you got that. Amen.
Okay? Listen, we got the exclusive. Okay.
Yes, you did.
Okay, Jay. Again, thank you so much. Thank you for being part of the Gifted and Guided community. I love you too.
Keep doing what
you're
doing. Thank you for thinking of me, and let's just keep going. Somebody needs what we already got. Yeah.
Mic drop. Thank you for listening to the Gifted and Guided podcast. Be sure to follow us on all social platforms at The Gifted and Guided. And make sure to DM us and email us. We want to hear from you. This is a community that we're building together. We have some free resources for you that you can find at the link in our bios on Instagram and TikTok. And one of our favorites, the Gifted and Guided Library. Again, a free resource made just for you, especially to get through those crazy weeks. Until next week, may your cup overflow as you mind your business and walk in purpose. This is Gifted and Guided.